but there are multiple ideas about the neighborhood and about this area. So we're going to really talk about the fluidity, the urban fluidity in this part of town, and try and look at the evolution of it and the changes of it, and not just what's happening now. But actually what's happening now, I'll tell you, is like a running dog. It is moving fast. So this tour this year is going to be different than if we had one next year and the year after, and different than if we'd had it the year before. So that's one of the exciting things about this neighborhood. Another footnote before we start, incorporated into modernist buildings. And it was also a couple of years later that Minoru Yamasaki started doing lacy buildings with Asian imagery on it. So we're at the last end of modernism here. So you see a wonderful conflict between styles at the site. It is what it is. Also, to be noted is that this church has been around since 1853. It was actually the first organized religious institution in the city of Oakland. It originally met down by the waterfront in a tent, and built its first building, a little shack down there soon after. And since there were no other churches, there were other people, there were Methodists, Baptists, whatever, who also used it until they built their own facility. It then eventually moved up to 14th and Franklin, built a huge Gothic thing in the 1870s, and then moved up here, at the opening ceremony in 1914. Historically, it's been a large, prominent, mainline Protestant church. As you know, what's happening with churches? Diminishing use, diminishing activity. The membership here is around 200 now. There is approximately 100 people who come to worship on Sunday. But of note, it was still, and part of this story has to do with the church somewhat diminished, but nonetheless, by 1960, there was still lots of families here, lots of needs, so this space was filled. So the actual diminishment, and churches, as you know, people tend to have an affiliation with them for some time, and even though they moved some distance away, so it was not until 1970s that perhaps the active church growers started to diminish. So that was the reason this happened so late. There's still post-war families were still coming here, and the need for meeting space. It caused fires, so there were ordinances that the gasoline had to be stored out in the street, and that the buildings were relatively fireproof, with firewalls along all four sides. So, for example, the Uptown Garage and the Classic Cars West are both facilities which, and correct me if I'm wrong, restore cars and sell them.
You're wrong. I don't want to correct you.
And they participate in our Murmur by opening their showrooms.
So he buys vintage cars, he brokers.
Okay, fine, good.
And vintage cars are really a big part of his show.
Okay,
They're beautiful cars.
Yeah.
Giovanna does the body work elsewhere. This is the showroom where people drop off their cars and pick them up, and she's more interested in showing art than she is in showing cars.
So, but there are cars in there. They're both facilities, and there's art in there.
They're both really good examples of the transition.
Yeah. And the mixture, and the combination, and the reflection, the acceptance from the automobile. I mean, what a combination. Would you ever expect? What? They're gorgeous in there. You know, the spaces are beautiful, the automobiles are beautiful, the art. This is a very handsomely built building, actually. And there are many out in the Adams Point neighborhood, many other neighborhoods. I've always admired it. You see it as you drive up Valley Street there. It's got a very handsome and reserved modern movement front elevation, side elevation of its type, but it's unusual in this downtown location. Now, let's walk up to the